What's going on, everybody? Scott Lenore back here by myself again. It is time to do my week 5 college football predictions and my week 4 at 3 NFL predictions. Let's get into those right now. First game out, Utah and Oregon State tomorrow night on FS1. I will go with Oregon State here at home. I think if Cam Rising's back, I might take Utah in this game, but I don't think he's healthy enough yet. So I'm going to go with Oregon State to get the win here at home against Utah. Next up, Penn State and Northwestern. I'm going to go with Penn State to get the win here. I think Penn State's looking very good to start the season. So I'll go with Penn State to get the win here over Northwestern. Next up, probably the most hyped up game of the weekend is it'll be Caleb Williams and number 8 USC heading into Boulder to take on Coach Prime and Colorado. I will go with Caleb Williams and USC to get the win here. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Neither of these teams can play defense. I expect both teams to be in the high 40s. I'll take at USC to get enough plays to make enough plays defensively to get the win on the road over Colorado. Next up, Florida and Kentucky, noon on ESPN. Should be a good game here. I'm going to go with Florida in this game. I think Florida has gotten better over the past couple of weeks. And every time you start hyping up Kentucky, they usually lose a game they're not supposed to, and I think this is that game here. So I'm going to go with Florida to find a way to get a win here on the road against Kentucky. Next up, Georgia heading in to Jordan-Hare Stadium to take on Auburn. Give me Georgia to get a win here. I think that defense is still too good to lose here. So I'm going to take Georgia and the defense to get a win here on the road over Auburn. Next up, Michigan and Nebraska. This another game that shouldn't be any problem here. I'm going to go with Jim Harbaugh and Michigan to get the win here on the road in Lincoln against Nebraska. Next up, number 24 Kansas, the team that UCF plays next week, as they head into Austin, Texas, to take on number 3 Texas. 87 degrees in Austin on Saturday. Give me Texas to get the win here. I think Quinn Ewers has been playing very well. The defense looks much better this year. So I think this is the year that Texas might make the playoff. I'm going to go with Texas to get the win here at home over Kansas. Next up, Missouri and Vanderbilt. I'm going to go with Mizzou. Mizzou's looking very good this year after a very good week last week and a great week a couple weeks ago against Kansas State. I'm going to go with Missouri to get the win on the road in Nashville against Vanderbilt. Next up, LSU and Ole Miss. I will go with LSU to get the win here. I think LSU's a little bit better right now than Ole Miss is, but this should be a very good game. I'll go with LSU to find a way to get a win on the road against Ole Miss. Next up, Oregon and Stanford. This should be a good game as well. I'm going to go with Bo Nix and Oregon to get the win here. I think Oregon's looking very good. Definitely the favorite to win the Pac-12 right now, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with Bo Nix and Oregon to get the win over Stanford. Next up, Iowa State and Oklahoma, 7 o'clock on FS1. I'm going to go with Dylan Gabriel and Oklahoma to get the win here. I think Oklahoma is looking very good this year. The defense is looking better this year, but that's not saying much after how bad their defense was last season. So I'm going to go with Oklahoma to get the win here on the road at home in Norman against Iowa State. Next up, South Carolina and Tennessee. I'm going to go with Tennessee to get the win here at home. I think Joe Milton will do enough offensively for Josh Heupel and the Vols to get a win here at home in Knoxville against South Carolina. Next up, Alabama and Mississippi State. Tough place to play in Stark Vegas, but I'm going to go with Alabama to get the win here. I think it should be a good game, but I'm going to go with Alabama to get the win at home, on the road in Starkville against Mississippi State. Next up, Washington and Arizona. I'm going to go with Michael Penix and Washington to get the win here. I think he's been probably one of the best quarterbacks to watch in the country to start the season. So I'm going to go with Washington to get the win on the road against Arizona. Next up, Nevada and Fresno State. Fresno State in the rankings for the first time this season. Might be the best group of 5 team this season, led by former UCF quarterback Mikey Keene, who's been looking very good this season. I'm going to go with Fresno State to get the win here at home over Nevada. And the non-top 25 game of the week, let me look it up here. There we go. There it is. UCF and Baylor. UCF opening up their home slate of games in the Big 12, taking on Baylor. Baylor has now left the state of Texas to start the season. Their first true road game here. And I think UCF is angry about last week. I think they're upset with how bad they played last week. I think UCF bounces back this week. And I think they get a win at home, especially with all the 2014 guys back in the stadium this week. I'm going to go with UCF to find a way to get a win at home over Baylor. And now into the NFL games for the weekend. Starting off tonight on Amazon Prime, as it'll be the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. I'm going to go with Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers to get the win here at home. I think that it's going to be this is always a tough place to play. The Lions are favored by 2 points. I'm not surprised by that. I think the Lions are the better team, but I think at home in Lambeau, I think Jordan Love and the Packers find a way to get a win at home over the Lions. Next up, the first of the London games for the season, ESPN Plus and Disney Plus this weekend. As it'll be the Atlanta Falcons heading into London to take on Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. Give me Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars to get back on track after losing 2 straight games. I think the Jags find a way to get a win in London against the Falcons. Next up, in probably the game of the weekend, is it'll be Tua and the Dolphins heading into Buffalo to take on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Surprised this game's not in prime time this week, just because they're at home, and I think the weather could be a little bit iffy this week. 62 degrees in Buffalo this week. I'm going to go with the Bills to find a way to get a win at home over the Dolphins, but this should be a fantastic game. I'm going to go with the Bills to find a way to get a win at home over the Dolphins. Next up in the game that nobody will watch except if you're a fan of one of these teams, it'll be the Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos heading into Soldier Field to take on Justin Fields and the Bears. I'm going to take the Bears to finally get a win here. I think the Bears have not looked good the first 3 weeks, but they have played against some pretty good teams. I'm going to go with the Bears to find a way to get a win at home over the Broncos. Next up in the next game, it'll be Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens coming off a loss last week to the Colts as they head into Cleveland to take on Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. I might be in the minority here. I'm going to take Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens to get back on track. Tough loss in overtime last week to the Colts. But I think Lamar's going to get back on track this week. Give me the Ravens get a win on the road against the Browns. Next up, the Cincinnati Bengals, after getting their first win of the season on Monday night, as they head into Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans. Give me the Bengals to keep it going. I think Joe Burrow's still a little bit banged up, but I think he'll do enough this week to get a win. I'm going to go with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals to get a win on the road in Nashville against the Titans. Next up, Matt Stafford and the Rams head into Indy to take on the Colts. Anthony Richardson still in concussion protocol. We'll see if he can go on Sunday. If not, it'll be Gardner Minshew starting under center for the Colts. I'm going to go with the Colts to get a win here at home. I think the Colts are a better team right now than the LA Rams, so I'm going to go with the Colts to get a win at home over the Rams. Next up, being probably one of the lowest scoring games of the weekend, is it'll be Baker Mayfield and the Bucs heading into New Orleans. Ironically, they take on famous Jameis Winston and the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield and the Bucs to find a way to get a win here. I think Jameis is going to make some mistakes, as he always does, and I think the defense will improve after last week. They did not look good last week defensively against Philadelphia, but I think we'll look better this week. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield and the Bucs to find a way to get a win in New Orleans against the Saints. Next up, the Washington Commanders heading into Philly to take on the Eagles. Give me the Eagles to get a win here. I think the Eagles have been playing very well recently. I think they're starting to look a lot like they did last season after what I saw on Monday night. So I'll go with the Eagles to get a win at home over the Commanders. Next up in the battle of two 0-3 teams, it'll be the Minnesota Vikings heading into Carolina to take on the Panthers. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to get their first win of the season. I think Kirk Cousins is going to protect the football this week. I don't think they're going to turn the ball over as much as they have been in recent weeks. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to get a win here on the road in Charlotte against the Panthers. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers coming off 2 primetime wins as they head into Houston to take on C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. Tough game here, but I'm going to go with the Steelers to find a way to get a win here. I would not be surprised to see the Texans win this game, but I think the Steeler defense will continue to do what they've been doing the first couple of weeks of the season, and that is hurting deep offenses. So I'm going to go with the Steelers to get a win here on the road in Houston against the Texans. Next up, the Las Vegas Raiders coming off a loss on Sunday night to the Steelers as they head into SoFi Stadium to take on Justin Herbert and the Chargers coming off a win on Sunday against the Vikings. I will go with the Chargers to make it 2 in a row here. I think Herbert looked very good last week. I'm going to go with Justin Herbert and the Chargers to get a win here at home over the Raiders. Next up in America's Game of the Week on Fox probably is it'll be Mac Jones and the New England Patriots heading into Dallas to take on Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to go with Dallas to get the win here at home. I think Dallas has been looking better than New England has this year. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys to get a win here at home and bounce back after a tough loss to the Cardinals last week. I think they bounce back this week at home against the Patriots. Next up, Josh Dobbs and the Arizona Cardinals heading into Levi Stadium to take on Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. Probably the best team in the NFC right now. I'm going to go with the Niners to get the win here at home over the Cardinals. Next up on Sunday Night Football, it'll be Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs heading into MetLife Stadium to take on the New York Jets. I will go with the Kansas City Chiefs to get the win here on the road in New York. I understand why this game's in prime time because they thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be still there for the Jets at this point in the season. So I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and the Kansas City Chiefs to get the win here on the road against the Jets. And now into Monday Night Football, as it'll be Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks heading in to MetLife to take on Danny Dimes and the New York Giants. I will go with Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks to get the win here on the road in New York against the Giants. And that will do it for this episode of Scott Swinging Sports Today, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back next week with another episode of Scott Swinging Sports. And I'll see you guys right back here next week on Scott Swinging Sports. See you later, guys.